Hello and welcome to Running Stronger. My name is Will Frantz, and this week we have an episode that for most people is probably better digested through video, but if you have a pretty good idea of the gym and how squat racks work, and you can visualize proportions of things, then it might service you just fine to be on audio. Regardless, the video link is in the show notes, so you can click that and go watch it, but the big thing is how to set safeties in the gym. Every day I see people not really use the safeties on racks, and not only is it unsafe, but it is also a great limiter to progress because using safeties properly will help you have more confidence and lift better. So let's look at how to use safeties in a way that will make our lifting more effective. If you learn to set safeties properly, you will make more progress in the gym. This is one of the most overlooked things I see on a daily basis in the gym. People do not set safeties. I don't think they know how to set safeties. And as a result, they are scared to push it, or they end up getting stuck and they have to do weird things to get out of a lift that failed. So let's look at a bench press first, and then we'll look at a squat, because those are the big two that we should know how to do. Now, safeties look different depending on your rack. We have this rogue rack set up where it just pivots out, comes into one end, then it can come out. You put the larger pin end in first. Make sure that you're putting the other smaller pin in the same numbered hole, or else it ends up cockeyed and it's tough to get out. And then it just swings back into place, and then you can slip one of these pins in for security purposes. Now, there's also the old pin system where it's just a big metal rod that goes through both sides of the squat rack. There's also like extender safety bars, right? They come off the front of the squat rack. Those are also popular on the Rogue Mini Monster, Monster Light, whatever those racks are called. But no matter what, if we can set the safeties, we're going to be a lot better off and be able to work a lot harder because we will have more confidence that we're not going to get stapled by a lift. So for the bench press, this one's pretty simple. We should definitely do it before you start loading the bar heavy though, because you want to make sure that you're in the right spot, because it can be kind of terrifying, and we'll see why. So in a bench, we want to make sure that we can get down to our chest, because that's how we bench press. So we're going to unrack the bar, and I want to make sure that I can get it down to my chest and still have space above the safety so that I can get all the way down. This could be about an inch higher, but if I did raise it a number, it ends up clipping it. So I know that my number is 11. Now there's a gap here between the height of my throat and the height of my chest. So if I get stuck at the bottom and can't come back out, I'm just gonna have the bar come back. It'll be over my throat. Now I am safe, and I just need to shimmy out underneath the bar and escape. So you really wanna make sure that we know where that is, because the gap between your chest and your throat, especially depending how narrow you are front to back as a human, might not be that big, right? So we want to make sure that we're in the right spot. For some people, it will be a very thin margin. You might even be like brushing the top of your throat, but we can usually set it in a way that it is safe if things go wrong. It is always better to have the backup in case you need it rather than not have it when you need it. So set this. The other thing is, once you set it, if you're on the same squat rack on a regular basis, you know the number, right? Like I know that this goes into number 11, and it never changes until I get substantially bigger or lose a bunch of weight. It would be very weird if this were going to change on a very, very quickly, right? So we will always kind of stick it in the same number, and it will be fine. So that's how we set a safety for a bench press. Now, it doesn't mean you shouldn't use spotters. Doesn't mean we shouldn't be stable. What it does mean, though, is that we can stop benching without clips on the end of the bar, so that it is less likely for the plates to slide around, so that you're able to push harder. You're also able to challenge maxes, because in the case that you do get stuck, you're not going to be worried about crushing yourself. You're also not going to have to roll the bar down onto your pelvis and have a substantial amount of weight sitting on your hip bones and have to get out of that somehow. So setting safeties on a bench press will allow you to get more out of your gym session because you'll be confident in pushing harder. So now let's look at a squat. I'm going to set that up first. So we see the same thing on a squat. If you set the safeties, you will probably get more out of your session because you will have more confidence to push harder, to lift heavier, and you will also probably go a little bit lower, which is usually a good thing because most people struggle out of the hole or just right above the very bottom of the hole. People trim the depth on their squat because they're worried about not being able to get back up. If you have the safeties set, then you're not really going to have that problem. We can also use the safeties. This is a different thing, but we can use the safety to do something like pin squat or say squat off the safeties so that we can work on sticking points better. So if we know how to use them for security purposes, then we can also use them effectively for training. So I'm going to set this. Now, kind of like the bench, right? We want the safety to be just below whatever range we're looking to hit for our squat, just like we wanted it to be just below our chest for the bench. Now there's going to be, I don't know, more margin for error here. We still want it to be pretty close to bottom depth because if it's too low, we basically have to bail the bar, which if we're going to do that, we might as well just bail the bar rather than dropping it. So on the safeties. So we'll look at this. We're going to unrack, come back to wherever you're going to squat, and then I'm going to get to the bottom of my squat, and we can see here that it's a couple inches below where the bar is if I hit the very bottom of the squat, and then come back up. So again, here, stable, sit nice and secure in the bottom, come back up. Sit nice and secure in the bottom, come back up. Now if I had this slightly higher, it could definitely cause problems, which is why we want to make sure that this number is correct before you get started. The other thing that we want to make sure is you're centered on the squat rack, because if the plate comes down and hits it, that is similarly jarring and problematic. So if I set this even a little bit too high, once I get to the bottom, kind of takes the bar from me. That's not great, right? So we want to make sure it's in the right spot. Now, when we look at bailing this bar out of the onto the safeties, what we don't want to do, despite the sentence I just said, is actually bail the bar, right? Like that is a great way to really damage a barbell, because especially if you have it loaded heavy, dropping the barbell onto big sturdy pieces of metal is a great way to bend the barbell. So we want to make sure that we're doing it as smoothly as we realistically can. Now, if the choice is between getting hurt or dropping the barbell onto the safeties, the no-brainer answer should be drop the barbell onto the safeties. Human safety is more important than whatever a barbell costs. And even if all we cared about is money, especially since I'm in the US, a medical bill is almost always more expensive than the cost of a barbell. So if you're going to get stapled under a bar, or if it's going to tear something, you can ditch it. But ideally, we would bring it down somewhat smoothly to the safeties and unload from there. So let's look how that might look. We're going to unrack. We're going to get ourselves into the squat position. We come down. Now, if I get stuck, all I do is bring it down and then escape. All right, it's really that simple. And we'd see the same thing if it were like a front squat. We can look at that as well. Probably going to sit right in my microphone. Sorry, we're going to be here. And we're going to sit down. If I can't get out, I can just bring it right down to the safeties. What I do see happen sometimes is people like drop it from here, and that's how we usually end up damaging equipment to some degree. But again, if the question is safety or that, damage the equipment. But do what you can to bring it down kind of smoothly. Now, I set safeties on squats all the time, and it allows you to push heavier, and it allows you to be more stable, and again, be more confident. And this also allows you to train with someone who isn't necessarily as strong as you, right? Like if they don't know how to spot very well, or if they're just not really capable of spotting the weight that you would spot, you can still have them as a training partner. And then same idea, if you don't have a schedule that really is conducive to having a training partner, it allows you to train really well on your own and still get a ton of results. So setting safeties is important. Now, if we look at Other big movements like a deadlift, the safety there is pretty simple. Drop the bar, right? Like you'll be on a platform or a surface or whatever. There's no reason we should really get hurt in a deadlift unless you're trying to max out on a powerlifting platform, because as soon as something starts to go wrong, you can just let go and it will come to the ground, and that's okay. But with the squat, it's really easy to get stapled, and with the bench press, it's easy to get crushed. So we want to make sure that we have that safety mechanism in place so we can still challenge ourselves and push those end ranges without it being a concern or a lack of confidence.